The infinitely complex landscape of 5G digital commerce boils down to one simple question: can you deliver? CSG Encompass is your answer. It's how you create a B2B partner network and become what's next. It's a modular yet holistic solution proven effective for today, bolstered by investment in tomorrow, and delivered by trusted experts, all in the service of achieving the best possible outcome. Do any of it, do all of it. Deliver with CSG Encompass.
In today's digital world, communication service providers are foundational to how we live, work, and play. At Oracle Communications, our solutions help you create new digital experiences that leverage the full potential of 5G to co-create industry solutions, launch new services quickly, and provide an omnichannel customer experience. Charge for any service type and orchestrate 5G services and network slices. Let us help you reimagine communications for 5G.
Good morning and welcome to today's Asia Pacific Leadership Summit. And our topic today is from traditional connectivity to generating a new digital business, creating and getting to the right business models. My name is Joanne O'Brien. I am the VP of Digital Ecosystems at TM Forum, and it's my pleasure to host you today. So just to get started, I want to share some thoughts on, from a TM Forum perspective, regarding how we look, the models that we use for de-risking diversification. So just to give you a little sense of the full session today, first, after that, we will have a case study from Dr. Tomek Gersberg, who is the CTO of Axiata Enterprise of Axiata Business Services. And he's going to talk to us about models for telco and cloud connectivity and how it's meeting computing. Then we will have a session from Sunil David, Regional Director, IoT at AT&T, Global Network Services in India. And he's talking to us about unlocking the potential of IoT through new partnerships and business models. Then we will have a fireside chat, Succeeding with Federated Platform Business Models. We'll have Jens Voigt, who is the Product Management Head at Blue Marble Comvidia, and Seshandri Manivanan, Vice President Tata Play. And finally, we will have a panel discussion on the topics of achieving the necessary agility to capitalize on beyond connectivity opportunity. And here I'll be joined by Dr. Charlene Tyagarav, CTO of TM Research and Development, Divesh Gupta, Vice President, New Technology and Sales Operations at PCCW Global, Ian Watterson, Senior Vice President at Asia Pacific for CSG, and Rajeev Kandag, who is Director, Corporate Strategy and Strategic Partnerships and Strategic Planning at DO, and Ramesh Palani, Head of Software Sales at JPAC Oracle Corporation. So excellent session, looking forward to all of these activities and so many speakers lined up for you today. Today, this is your opportunity also to add your own questions to the Q&A, and I will incorporate those into our various opportunities for conversation throughout this morning's session. So without further ado, I want to get started on some perspectives of mine from our work in TM Forum collaboration. And really what we're getting at, because today's session is about models to shift from being a traditional CSP to being a digital business, which is essentially a diversification approach for business. This is one of the most risky things you can do in any given business. And what we saw with during COVID, we recognized that there was a huge amount of new value. COVID, from a business perspective, obviously had devastating impacts in some regions and for many people individually. But for business, because of its acceleration of digital, what it did bring to the fore and crystallize is that for telecommunications, the business models really don't stack up. We're putting huge amount of energy and investment into 5G and the infrastructure, but really unless we go move up the value stack into added value services and platforms, etc., will we really reap the benefits of the digital era. So that's the backdrop of our conversation today. We do need to look at our businesses differently in order to be able to capitalize and on this new diversification, and therefore reduce the risk of that diversification as a business strategy. This is a slide you may have seen before from T-Inform, but it's an important one for us in the context of today's session. What we realize is that many of our operators are on a strategy of moving from traditional telco to digital telco. But really, unless in order to capitalize on the new digital era, we need to actually move further. We need to move to become a digital service provider. And this is based on, however, connectivity as a service, and delivering next generation connectivity. But in order to really capitalize on these from a revenue perspective for our industry, we need to also apply platform-based businesses, end-to-end solutions, and think about the new services that we're going to offer over and above connectivity. However, if you're choosing to stay and just evolve purely to being a digital telco, this is also a very, this is also a completely legitimate strategy for you as a business. However, if you want to really generate higher percentages of the overall value of the market, we need to move towards digital service provider. And in the backdrop of the industry today, what we're seeing is a blurring of industries powered by new technologies such as cloud edge compute, IoT, big data, etc. And we're seeing new value being created right across every industry. This slide gives you an indication of the different percentages that are perceived to be created across all of these different industry verticals. But it also gives a sense of we're shifting from a completely different way of doing business. Traditional way of doing business was very much based on the value chain, the porter value chain. However, in an ecosystem context, it becomes something much more dynamic, much more fluid, where the lines and boundaries of traditional business are blurred. And that is the backdrop of what we want to talk about today. This is an adaptation of a slide that was actually originally created by CSG, who are on our session today. But because we shared a lot of the principles of this shift in business that we're seeing, we adapted and created a variant for T-Inform. Traditional business is very much, and in our mindset, in our industry, we had the CSP at the center of the universe, delivering and partnering, in an individual type of way. However, what we're seeing is the evolution initially to closed ecosystems, but ultimately what we want to evolve towards is open ecosystems, something that is very agile, very dynamic, where CSP, recognizing that CSP plays a fundamental role in the industry, however, not necessarily in all instances the center of that universe. If you evolve out into new industry verticals, and openness is a very important concept as well, and you think about doing business, in order to be able to capitalize on these new opportunities, in order to be able to create new partnering opportunities at speed and at scale, you need to be open in your business design, in your architecture, and in your operations processes and financial processes. So this notion of a completely dynamic, agile co-creation model of ecosystems is really what we have in mind and what we have at our heart when we talk about the architectural patterns and the way of doing business in the future that we are striving towards. In this era, everything happens much, much faster than it does today. Value is unlocked at speed and at scale, and that is the basis for which we want to be able to create new business into the future. At T-Inform, we have some key fundamentals that we create as capabilities, essentially, that act as the boundary for this type of growth into the future. Connectivity as a service is one of those. We see a need to shift our mindset and our operations to be able to revolutionize how we go to market for connectivity in the future, looking at next generation connectivity, which is essentially intent-based. It looks at the needs of the business customers, what their requirements for connectivity are in the future, and finding completely seamless mechanisms to resolve those connectivity requirements at speed and at scale, delivering solutions not just from your own offering as a CSP, but also from partnered offerings. And to do that in a way that is completely dynamic, and the complexity of which is completely hidden from the customer itself. That is the future that we're driving towards. And having that foundation in place for growth beyond connectivity, we believe is an important stepping stone for us as an industry. As well as that, an additional core capability for operating in digital ecosystems is zero-touch partnering. And we're just publishing a new zero-touch partnering framework at TM Forum, and it's based on looking at the full life cycle of zero-touch partnering, from discovery, onboarding, partner and product onboarding, partnership formation, and partnership management. In this diagram, you see a mapping of the core group of things that you need to be able to do at each stage of the life cycle of partnering, plus understanding of the different governance aspects that are really important in the context of partnering. Because in partnering, what we're really at is the ability to be able to partner at scale with trusted relationships. We talk about the concept of trust. However, you must never rely on trust. You need to have a governance system in place so that you're operating a trusted system where you have put all of the governance aspects into place and you can rely on those. And on the next slide, we see the same view of the life cycle of partnering, but here in that slide, we see the capabilities. You might move me along here, please. It's not moving for me. So here we have a mapping of capabilities to zero-touch partnering life cycle stages. And one of the things that we're developing as part of our framework of collaborative material at TM Forum is to recognize that we see the definition of business capabilities as fundamental to be able to bridge the conversation between business and technical teams. And by having this harmonious conversation and being able to get everybody on the same page around the business needs from a growth and R&D perspective, we're able to harmonize the conversation. We're also then, through the patterns and models of TM Forum, able to map all of the frameworks and assets to those business capabilities. And this is a new development stream that we're operating inside in TM Forum so that we can, one, de-risk diversification, but also streamline it right across the business by having every aspect of your business coordinated for that diversification strategy and being able to streamline your processes, your operations, your functions, and your team culture, essentially, ultimately, then you would be able to de-risk your diversification. That's a key feature of the work and the assets of TM Forum that we're putting in place. And as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about open ecosystems at TM Forum. We've seen a lot of business growth in the last number of years around what we call type 1 marketplaces. These are your Airbnbs, your traditional Amazon web and marketplaces. eBay is a standard type 1 marketplace. It's considered a controlled marketplace where it's essentially winner takes all, in that the controller of the marketplace, the owner of the marketplace, and the curator of the marketplace is taking the vast percentage of the value. While everybody gets to play, or largely gets to play, there still isn't a completely open, dynamic, decentralized and more democratized system. And what we're designing with partners right across the globe is what we believe the future of marketplaces to be, which is open business, B2B to X largely. It's type 2 marketplaces. These are more democratic, more revenue sharing, have a full system of governance in place and things like that. So really what we see the future of ecosystems is being much more open. And in that open ecosystem scenario, the power of, or the importance of zero-touch partnering becomes even more important into the future. And this is part, if you think about the backdrop that we're all seeing around Web 3.0, decentralization, cloud edge compute, when you take all of these together, the justification or the image towards type 2 marketplaces become much more real. So we do see that as the key thing that we're striving towards ultimately into the future is open ecosystems, much more dynamic and democratic, revenue sharing, and not so much the winner take all closed models. At T-Inform, we've also developed a ecosystem framework, which is a series of frameworks in their own right, each designed to help with the business decision making of where to invest. And it's done in collaboration with our partners at T-Inform, but also from the London Business School. Much of the research has been shared between those two communities. And this material has already been published, and it helps us as a business team to think about where is the best use cases to play. So in all of the other materials that we talk about, we're talking about fundamentals, components that you need inside your business in order to reduce diversification strategy and approaches. However, they don't actually tell you where to play. Where are the best opportunities for you if you're looking to move up that value stack into a platform-based business or end-to-end type business? Which use cases are likely to yield me more value into the future? This whole pattern of ecosystem framework is designed to help you do that, just that. And we're currently building up a team which is actually practicing the application of these models and frameworks to different use cases inside their business. And all of this work is in community and in collaboration with our members for you to share, to help in your acceleration and de-risking of your strategy and growth. So with that backdrop, from a T-Inform perspective, I'd really like to hand over to Dr. Tomek Gersberg, who is the CTO of Axiata Enterprise for Axiata Business Services. He's talking to us about looking for the growth models for telco and cloud connectivity meeting computing. Over to you, Dr. Tomek.
Thank you very much, Jan. Thank you. Okay, I see that I'm controlling the screen now. So actually, we all, as we are in the business, we are doing the same thing. We are looking for growth. And here, if I look at the growth of the mobile industry, we can figure out that actually this growth, which we have experienced in last year, which is forecasted for the next year, falls below global economic growth. So on one hand side, we have the industry that contributed to the global growth of many economies, and we see the industry that does not grow anymore. On the other hand, we have also the public cloud market, where we saw fantastic growth, and this hyperscalers, they delivered a great job to transform many industries, many economies, to digitalize and bring also the growth to other industries. But here we also see that the growth rate for the future it is expected to decline. So for my question is, if there are opportunities here for the synergetic growth, how those two businesses could leverage itself to increase the growth trends for the future. And the answer, in my perspective, can be seeked in the customer and technology trends. Because that's what we see right now is a massive change in the way how people interact with the technology and with each other. First of all, we see immersive experiences that are coming now under the roofs. So the 360 environments with the live concerts or with live transmission from the sport events, the virtual reality that brings the entertainment to a new level, or mixed reality. This types of experience is very engaging, It's really delivering wow effect, and I'm sure, we are sure that this will be the future of experiencing the digital media. We have also the natural interfaces now being developed as the consequence of those screen moving to our eyes is that we can't use the keyboard anymore. We need to rediscover the way how to talk to the devices, how to talk to the applications. And we see the voice control, we see the gesture control that is coming, the eye tracking, everything actually beyond the keyboard and the mouse. And we also see the trend of the autonomous devices that are almost everywhere, from drones to self-driving cars to robotics. So these are the firm and very real trends that have also defined a new paradigm. The redefined real time, because real time is not anymore, like 100 milliseconds, which was in the past a kind of conversational interaction. We see that all of them are computing intensive. All of them include man-machine interfaces and collaboration. And as we are untethered, those solutions must be untethered as well. So here, I believe there is one trend that can help us. This is the virtualization of devices. Right now, I believe this is one of the biggest challenges for the fast adoption of innovations. We see that the computing that needs to be packed into the device requires a lot of battery. So moving the computing out of the device will help us to save the battery, especially as the energy budget for the communication module is much lower than for the GPUs. We see the economics benefit because those devices, the computing in those devices is not used, 24/7. We just use it by hours a day, and by remaining time, the chipset itself is idle. So again, if we move it more to the centralized ways, if we virtualize and share it, we can increase the economy of the solutions. And what is also important, if we virtualize the devices, we can also speed up the innovation cycle. It's much easier to change, to alterate, to innovate. This virtualization can also bring totally new capabilities to the devices that are right now not possible because of the computational limits. And 5G will bring us the next thing, which is the wireless wire. So finally, we have the technical way how to manage the connectivity between the device and the place where it is virtualized. On top of that, we also see new use cases. This Live 360 streaming for sports events and concerts. It requires new types of content adaptation. That needs to happen close to the user, as must be very reactive to that what the user is doing. Also, the multiplayer AR gaming, if you had the chance to enjoy it, it's a super fun. But the question is, how to deliver this super fun in the consistent way to the group of people at one place that are using, various providers, various SIM cards. Those use cases, together with the device virtualization, I believe, can help us to improve the trends, the growth trends for the connectivity and for the cloud computing. But what are the challenges actually that we need to have now? So public cloud is great. It's super efficient, and in the last years, the hyperscalers have been doing a great job to make it accessible, to deliver very powerful solutions and solutions enablers at a good price. But in the context of the new services and new devices that are coming, they have a couple of limitations. So the first is that they are usually located far away from the user. And here the physical distance and packet delay plays a role. They are also placed outside of the telecom networks behind the peering points. And the peering points here are very often unmanaged places. So usually they are the source of the big distortion. And if you are seeking kind of new real-time services, the distortion can kill the user experience. The second thing is that the cloud is not connection aware, and vice versa, connection is not cloud application aware. So this is not supporting any of the mobility use cases. And the cloud applications can neither ask nor can enforce the connection performance or certain conditions from the network to optimize its own performance. This will change a little bit with 5G, but still will remain a challenge. And of course, that what I'm saying is that we say, okay, for that we have edge computing. But the edge computing, as it is being developed right now, is very much enterprise-centric. And the challenge for this kind of telco edge cloud is now how to make the edge generally available. So right now, if you are talking about deployment of the hyperscalers edge solutions on the telco edge, we said that are coming as a kind of vendor-locked appliances. The second challenge from the telco perspective is that the hyperscalers solutions were not designed to run network rules. That is now, again, changing slowly as the hyperscalers are doing a lot of effort to make the Azure stacks, Outpost, and so on more telco friendly, but it's still not to the level that telcos would expect. One of the challenges is also, how to deliver virtual GPUs efficiently. And efficiently, I mean not only that we have very easy virtualization of the device, but also the operational part that you, can change, the partitioning of the GPU without reinstalling the OpenStack and so on. So here we are lacking the freedom to deliver good service. And the last thing, which is probably the central question, is how to build the delivery and commercial models for the public edge cloud. So here I try to summarize what could be the path or what are available options. So the first is a colocation, and we know this type of business very well. So let's imagine say data center on the operator side, and then you can install a stack from the hyperscaler. And as usually these are kind of closed appliances, it comes with own hardware, with own bare metal Kubernetes, with the middleware, with the mesh, and with the applications. This business, it's relatively easy to start, but it's difficult to solve the problems that I mentioned previously. So how to deliver the shared experience, or how to manage both the orchestration on the service side and on the network side. The infrastructure as a service model, it could help to scale down required investments. And here the questions, of course, always who should take the risk, who should start this type of model, and what is the incentive for the operators to deliver the hardware if it's possible, if it would be possible, for the hyperscalers. The next model would be like Kubernetes as a service. And this Kubernetes as a service would serve both network production, the service creation, and the applications in the edge. So here we would have one orchestration for the network functions and applications. With that, we can have high level of automation. We can much easier manage the application mobility, as we are aware both the application state and the network state, and so on and so on. Probably, you know, the model, the settlement model could be set relatively easily, as it could be based on the resource consumption. Definitely, the challenge here is that the complexity to deliver it is much higher in the previous models. And the fourth path the industry, both industry could take, is to have an edge enabler. And the edge enabler that will abstract actually the mesh part of the hyperscaler services and the network orchestration, network delivery, and so on. Technically, with this setup, the technical possibilities are endless. However, here the commercial model is difficult, maybe difficult. And the second thing is, you know, how to run such a model without losing the control, without making this a kind of new global monopolist for the technology. So here, in my eyes, the first model, it requires kind of 10 billion investments per hyperscaler stack. So it's a kind of brute economic force path. The second is probably much more efficient, but requires the collaboration, the deep collaboration of the telco industry, of the hyperscaler industry, which is not existing right now. So jobs to be done is like deliver, to make the public edge accessible and, you know, to accelerate the innovation. We need to deliver the edge infrastructure, and this is like 1,000 edge data centers. We need to find the telcos to be a good host for the applications, to remove the telco complexity and deliver the APIs. And this is much more than the connectivity as a service, as the connectivity now needs to be much more deeply integrated with the application lifecycle. We need to, that's a big question mark. I call it free hyperscalers cloud functions from the native edge, the hardware and software stacks. It's easy to be said, much more difficult to be done, and this needs to be driven by the hyperscalers to happen. And definitely, we need to support application mobility, smart partitioning of applications, because otherwise the virtualization can't be delivered. And the most important thing is we need to find a cooperation model between the hyperscalers for the public agent, of course, with the help of telcos and the organizations like PM4. So my summary is that, in my eyes, device virtualization and new services, they can deliver growth impulses for the connectivity and for the cloud. That to unlock this potential, we need to have a common vision for the commercial model that could be shared across the industries. And finally, having the commercial model in mind, we can work on the technologies, because in my eyes, the technology advancement and technology development here will not bring a groundbreaking change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tomek. Very, very interesting presentation there and case study. Please do add your questions into the Q&A box, and we will pick them up in our conversation following the next presentation. So moving along, our next presenter is Sunil David, who is Regional Director, IoT, AT&T Global Network Services in India. He's talking to us about unlocking the potential of IoT through new partnerships and business models. Over to yourself there, Sunil.
Thank you, Joanne, for that introduction, and good afternoon to all those who have joined us virtually, and also a warm welcome to all the speakers who would be speaking later on. The topic for today is how does one unlock the potential of IoT through new partnerships and business models. So the course of the next 15 minutes, what I want to do is very briefly talk about AT&T's IoT strategy. At a very high level, cover what are our IoT capabilities, because IoT is an ecosystem play and there are various layers, parts of the whole solution. And whether you talk about a device or a platform or an application, we have a very good ecosystem of partners with whom we work with to put together solutions. And then I'll talk about our experiences of running marketplaces. We do have an IoT marketplaces, and I'll touch upon it. And it's always going to be an evolution, right? Once you start with a marketplace, you own that marketplace. And then at some point in time, you would then evolve into an ecosystem. Maybe it'll be part of a closed ecosystem, but the objective is eventually to get to an open ecosystem where there would be multiple stakeholders involved, and that's where your revenue share models will be worked out. Okay, let's move to the, sorry. Can you, sorry. Okay, let me talk about the AT&T IoT strategy. We have a three-pronged approach as it comes to our strategy. The first one being, the first pillar being focus on connectivity. And I strongly believe that, while the telecom service provider might have an end-to-end IoT stack, the one area where they really need to focus much on is on connectivity, and you got to do it really well, be it cellular, satellite, Wi-Fi, and so on, right? So our focus is on connectivity, and this is what today gives us bulk of our revenues. The second pillar of our strategy is simplification. So we have had a number of products, be it in the area of platforms, be it specific vertical applications, a number of device partners that we've built over the last decade or so. And over the last couple of years, we tried to simplify our whole product portfolio to be able to offer end-to-end solutions to the customer. So our objective is to make it easy for a customer to do business with us. And that calls for a very simplified set of products that we want to take to our customers. And the third part of our strategy, and this is very, very important, and this kind of ties into the theme, which is about ecosystems and trying to build business models, to have the right set of partnerships with channels who sell our services, as well as with the various other players in the ecosystems. It could be device companies, it could be system integrators, it could be niche IoT players who have some very strong capabilities. So the whole objective is to work with them, partner with them, and take solutions to market. Okay, let me quickly run through our IoT portfolio. And the whole objective of this is just to kind of give you a sense in terms of how important it becomes for us to have the right set of partners across all these layers. And it all starts with connectivity, right? So we have the whole breadth of connectivity services, 4G LTE, 5G, largely only in the US, because we own spectrum and infrastructure in the US. We are US headquartered, and US and Mexico are the only geographies where we own spectrum and infrastructure. Outside of that, we have partnerships with various mobile network operators where we kind of roam on their networks and offer global SIM solutions. We also are able to provide private LTE, and we're seeing a lot of use cases where customers might want private LTE networks or private 5G networks within a large campus. It could be a manufacturing company, it could be an educational institution. FirstNet is a solution that we offer in the US largely for first responders to respond to any disaster. Wired, again, a good option for connectivity, could be a fiber-based solution, Ethernet. There could be use cases you might probably use wired network. Wi-Fi, and again, within Wi-Fi, you have Wi-Fi 6, very optimized for IoT applications. And then you have narrowband IoT or LTM, which is license-based spectrum solutions based on 3GPP standards. As you move on, and you have the various components of hardware, be it gateways, modules, and so on. And here we have built a very good ecosystem of device partners. So we have about 4,000 device partners. Most of them are US headquartered, but quite a few of them have global presence. And here we actually, it becomes extremely important for us to make sure that the device partner that we work with have their devices IoT certified using our global SIM before they actually move on to our production environment. And it's very interesting that when we actually work with our hardware partners, that we have situations where we bring the hardware partner into a customer opportunity. We bundle the hardware along with our service and offer it to a client. And we also have situations where the hardware partner, a device partner, would actually take our connectivity, bundle it with their device, and actually sell it to their end customer. It actually works well for both. And it actually all depends on who actually owns the relationship with the customer. Whoever has a better relationship with the customer, they kind of play the lead. And either we bring the hardware partner in, or the hardware partner brings AT&T into the opportunity. Coming to the third layer, which is all about platforms. There are different platforms that we offer, starting with working with a device company to make sure that we have a very solid device management platform that integrates with our data flow, data management platform that we built. We also have a very good connectivity management platform. Here we partner with Cisco, and this is extremely important given that in any IoT solution, you might have the best possible device, you might have the best possible platform, but if you do not have good connectivity, and if you do not have a very powerful and scalable platform to manage that connectivity, then I think it becomes extremely difficult for the customer. And the connectivity management platform, I think extremely important from a telco standpoint to make sure that they're able to manage connectivity irrespective of where these SIMs are deployed. Finally, I just wanted to talk about applications. So, whether it is traffic management, be it connected car, asset tracking, all these applications kind of, run on top of these platforms. And again, here we have different partners that we work with. In telehealth, we have some partners in the US where we work with them to bundle the application along with the connectivity and take it to our clients. In the connected car space, we have a leadership position, more than 50 million connected cars using AT&T Global SIM here. So here we work very closely with the auto OEM, with the device partner, because the telematics device obviously needs to be certified, and we need to work very closely with them to make sure that it's tested before it is actually installed in the vehicle, right? So across all these layers, starting from connectivity to hardware to platforms to applications, we need to have the right set of partners. And the whole objective of AT&T is to have multiple options across each layer. And as far as the go-to-market engagement is concerned, either we bring the partner in or the partner brings AT&T into an opportunity. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of the connectivity solutions that we offer to our customers, but as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, that for any telco, even though they have an end-to-end stack, given that connectivity is their strength, a lot more focus on making sure that they're able to offer end-to-end connectivity, reliable and secure services to their end customers. The platform I spoke to you about, 5G MEC, 5G in conjunction with multi-access edge compute, global private cellular networks. We actually partner with Nokia and Ericsson. So if there are, outside of North America, if there are use cases where a customer wants a private 5G network, we can actually work with one of these partners to provide the solutions. Connected automotive solutions, extremely important area. And this is where an ecosystem will definitely play a big part. We can work with the auto OEM. We can get other stakeholders also part of the ecosystem. So for example, if the application is usage-based insurance, then we can probably get the insurance player also part of the platform. And then the objective would be to make sure that we have a rev share model where one of them can be the orchestrator of the platform, and then we can arrive at who gets what portion of the revenue. And then of course, cybersecurity, extremely important here. We have different partners with whom we work with, whether they talk about device security or network security or application or data security. Now, let me quickly move on to the power of the marketplaces. Now, we have built this IoT marketplace right now, kind of confined to our customers in the US, but this is something that can be definitely replicated to any part of the world, be it the European region or to the Asia Pacific region. And what we have done is, from a marketplace standpoint, we kind of covered 5 important areas. So the first thing being the entire IoT solution. It's an open marketplace. A customer wants to, say, buy an asset tracking solution. He can actually go to the marketplace, choose the specific asset tracking device that he wants. We also built an asset management operations center, an application which can track all assets across the world. The customer can actually subscribe to that, and he can actually build his whole solution and buy it from this marketplace. So that is one option where a customer can completely, buy the whole solution from that. If the customer wants only connectivity, they can always go to our marketplace and choose specific data plans that they want. If they want a data plan in the US, they can choose the data plan. If they want a data plan outside of the US, global SIM, a roaming plan, again, there are multiple options to choose from. Third is the device. And here, as I mentioned, we have more than 4,000 partners. And from those partners, we work with a few of them who are willing to put their devices on our marketplace. And the customer, again, can choose what device they want for that specific use cases. And again, platforms and services, we have our own data management platform called Dataflow. There are other partners who have their platforms on our marketplaces. So customer can actually choose what platform they want. And finally, developer kits. If there is a developer community wanting to build certain applications or build certain IoT solutions, they can always go to the marketplace, buy a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino board, along with some connectivity, perhaps an application which they can buy and actually build, the whole solution. So from a marketplace standpoint, these are the key areas that we wanted to cover. Now, let's look at specific solutions. And this is where partnerships will drive this. And let me first talk about asset management, because most research shows that a lot of the IoT use cases are for tracking of assets or knowing its condition and also knowing its efficiency. So most use cases are around this asset management. And here again, it could be containers and trailers, it could be equipment and machinery, freight monitoring, package tracking. In all these areas, you could actually have an asset management application where one can get a dashboard of all the assets which are there, and they can actually, get real-time updates in terms of the location, condition, and so on and so forth. But here, the value of partnership is extremely important, because one is, the customer can either choose our own application, but they can also choose other asset management applications that they want, and choose whatever options they want from a connectivity standpoint or from a device standpoint, right? So this is one specific area where we're seeing a lot of traction. I spoke about the development kits. A lot of the developer community wants to build applications, so they can order the connectivity from us, modules which they want, depending upon the use case. And the other important solution is on fleet and transportation. And again, we are seeing a lot of use cases. And especially with the supply chains getting disrupted because of the COVID situation, the need to digitize supply chains, the need to get better visibility of where your supply chain is becomes extremely critical, right? And here again, we work with a couple of partners, a couple of them where we white label their whole solution and offering it to the customers. Or if the customer doesn't want the fleet management application from us, they can perhaps just buy the connectivity and maybe buy the fleet management application along with the OBD device from another partner. But again, in this specific solution area, there are enough and more use cases. And this is a tremendous opportunity for the telcos because there are millions of vehicles today which are not connected. And if the telcos can get their act together, make sure that they have the right solution at an affordable price, then they can actually offer the whole stack itself, connectivity, the device, the application, and so on. And the big question would be who would monetize that data? And that's where the telco would definitely play a huge part. Okay. The other area where partnerships becomes key is in connectivity and devices. And when you talk about connectivity, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, today our connectivity is kind of confined only in the US and in Mexico, that's because we own our spectrum and infrastructure there. But outside of that, we roam on operators' networks. So we have roaming arrangements stitched with the more than 600 operators across 200 plus countries. And we make sure that every country we have at least 3 operators with whom we have partnerships with, roaming partnerships with, because the global SIM which AT&T offers comes with an AT&T profile. And the moment you plug it into a device and say if it's in Singapore, you connect it to the network, it can connect to any operator. It could be a Singtel, it could be a StarHub, and so on, right? So extremely important for the telcos to make sure that they have these roaming partnerships signed off, clear governance rules in terms of how support is managed, because when the telco provides the solution, they are dependent on the MNOs in terms of issues, right? So back-to-back SLAs with them becomes extremely important, because the customer at the end of the day would come to AT&T for end-to-end support, right? As I mentioned, US, where we pretty much covered the whole of the US from a connectivity standpoint. As far as the devices are concerned, again, while we have a very good ecosystem in the US from a device standpoint, our objective is we also want to make sure that in each country we have right set of device partners with whom we can work with, so that we can actually offer that locally. I'm coming to my end. I just want to end with this slide just to highlight the power of collaboration and co-creation. And from the telco standpoint, this is something which they definitely need to work on. It's just not about trying to go and position your capabilities to the end customer, but what we want to do is to co-create solutions with our end customers. So understanding the problem statements. And here I wanted to give the example of what we did with Samsung. We have a 5G innovation studio in Texas. Samsung is, they're one of the large semiconductor plants in the US. They came to us saying that these are our problem statements. Can you guys give us a solution? We worked with them and we built a private 5G network in one of the large semiconductor plants in the US. Private 5G network, seamlessly integrating with the 4G LTE network, coupled with MEC, multi-access edge computing, and managing all the industrial assets in that campus. And this is something which is definitely replicable anywhere in the world. The need for us to co-create solutions, bring in the customer, bring in other startups. We also work with startups, bring in the niche IoT players, co-create solutions. And that's where I believe the telcos can add value, right? So it's always going to be the evolution. You start by offering, of course, your own services, then you build your marketplace, and then you build your open ecosystem so you get all stakeholders together and then arrive at revenue share models that is acceptable to all. And I think then that will be a win-win for everyone. Win-win for the customer and win for the service provider as well. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Sunil. That's very, very interesting. I'm going to invite Tomek to turn on his video now as well, where we just recap on the 2 sessions that we just had. Super interesting. We heard a lot from Tomek on the really the layers of infrastructure, and we heard from Sunil very much about the vision from AT&T and the partnering co-innovation. Just to start where you almost ended there, Sunil, on you mentioned the revenue share. Just wondering how difficult is it to decide who gets what? What kind of problems have you run into, if any, in that situation, or are there principles that you use to help guide that?
I think the first thing, Joanne, is that it all depends on who owns the relationship with the customer. If the telco owns the relationship with the customer, and there are other stakeholders like the hyperscale provider, and maybe somebody who has very good IoT devices, somebody who is very strong in system integration, then I think the telco can play that, the role of an ecosystem orchestrator, and they can actually make sure that they come to a revenue share model which is agreeable to all. But given that the telco owns the relationship, maybe a little larger share of the pie would go to the telco, given that they own that relationship, and all the others can maybe get some share of it. On the other side, if you have a situation where somebody else owns the relationship with the customer, and the telco is only going to support that, the ecosystem orchestrator, then the telco would get a smaller share of the pie. So it all depends on who owns the relationship with the customer, in my view.
Who brings that to the table, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So it's the business opportunity takes a big priority. That's wonderful. Thank you for that. And coming to yourself, Tomek, you talk very much about the infrastructure and the the cloud edge compute and things like that. It was very, very interesting. But it leaves me with an awful lot of questions really about the cloud edge and the role of the telco, and where do you see the role of the telco? Could you summarize for me, if it seems very, very complicated is one thing, and there's an awful lot of risk set out in the models that you laid out. Is there an opportunity for telcos to actually build up their own cloud edge, or is it always going to be an orchestration with the hyperscalers in the first instance? Probably the first question.
I don't see the real opportunity for the telcos to build on cloud, because actually cloud is as good as not only the tools that it delivers, but as the community of developers, those creative people who are using it for the benefit of the customer. I believe here, the kind of the business is fixed. We know where all the guys are sitting. They are sitting, on the hyperscaler stacks. So from my perspective, trying to now reinvent kind of hyperscaler telco version, it will not fly. And it would also require a lot of money that could be invested more smartly. From my perspective, actually the key issue is how to kickstart this ecosystem. Because if I talk to the developers of the devices or developers of applications, they say, yeah, we would like to really spend the money of this great AR game. We have a great ideas, how to deliver super interesting experience, but where is the infrastructure? Now, so here we have this kind of eggs and chicken problem. And the problem on the operators is right now that they have to build 5G. There will be billions going into the 5G. So the question is, how to help to develop the kind of, I call it maybe not telco edge, but the edge that is close to the user and where the telco manage the connectivity and orchestrate, the mobility of applications. This is right now for me unknown. And the problem is that I do not see the table where we could sit and talk it over. Because as the telco industry over the years, there was forced actually to learn what is the collaboration and what is the co-opetition. And then we do not have this type of mechanism, this type of place, if you are thinking about the problem in the context of the cloud players and telco players. I believe both sides, if you look at the market trends, both sides are trying, to experiment a little bit, what can be done to understand a little bit also each other. But there is no clear vision, how to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. So this is my point. And I do not have ultimate answer right now. But I believe that if we start asking right questions, then we can also move the industry towards the goal.
Very good, very good. Thank you for that. And there's a question here from the audience on IoT Marketplaces. People are finding it very interesting and wondering, it makes discovery easy, but how about the fulfillment and delivery of that solution? Typical enterprise requirements will require some level of customization suitable for only certain kinds of products. So this is to yourself, Sunil.
I think very good question. So actually, the marketplaces are good today for any solution which is very standardized, where you have very simple use case. For example, if it's just asset tracking, or condition monitoring of an asset. For those kind of use cases where there's not much of customization involved, it's a great solution because customers can just buy it off the shelf, buy it from the marketplace, buy a data plan without any contract, and do it on their own. However, if there is an element of customization involved, then at that point in time, because we own the marketplace and we have our customers logging into that, what we do is we advise the customer and tell them that since there's an element of customization involved, you can always approach a system integrator. There are SIs or niche IoT players who can enable that end-to-end service. We can always suggest to them, these are partners that you can go to who can actually build or make those changes or customize the solution as per your requirements, and they kind of do it for us. So that's how we work. depending upon the nature of the use case. It all depends upon the nature of the use case. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And fulfillment or delivery, it's very straightforward as per the rules of the marketplace. Very clear guidelines are given where the device has to be installed, and so on. So that way, as far as the customers are concerned, they normally don't encounter any challenges there. And we and the marketplace is constantly updated, giving them updates in terms of where the delivery or where the device is, and so on and so forth. So that's taken care of.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. And Tomic, before we wrap up, you mentioned during your conversation during your presentation about the need for cooperation between standard bodies and cloud providers, particularly around the network and network APIs. Like Teamforum has already many years ago, like 5 years ago, published Network as a Service suite of APIs for the exposure of capabilities from the network. I think that's a good foundation. But what additional things do you think we need to collaborate on with the hyperscalers? And one of the things we hear back is that we have a natural culture in our community, in the telco community, of collaborating. However, that's not something that is that exists in the hyperscale cloud community. Any thoughts on what additional things we need to do and how to close or bring the culture of collaboration across the cloud communities, so that when we do develop more additional standards, that they operate at that cloud level as well?
Yeah, I believe that this is a very important move, like the telco APIs. And I believe, we agree on the telco side that this is the future, how we can deliver the models, because we understand the APIs, everyone understands the APIs, it's the pricing model for the APIs, it's clear and so on. So this is a kind of safe way for doing business. The question is how to make it really executable and how to make it relevant to the future needs of the developers. Because very often, if we talk about the APIs, we think about the APIs in the context of this old type of connectivity. And the question is if this old type of connectivity will be relevant to the needs of the future services, as like for the device virtualization. And this is something that needs to be even created together with the partners like hyperscalers, because ultimately they should define the services. We can propose something, but if this is the part that is meant to pay for the service, they need to tell what the good service is. So they need to tell, okay, if telco are going to provide a virtual slice of the network, including the computing at the given space, including the virtualized GPU and so on, that needs to be defined together with partners. So I believe that we came to kind of limits of reinventing ourselves.
Okay.
I know this is the answer.
Okay, very good, very good. We have a lot of work to do, but yet we have at least got some of the good foundations in place. I want to thank you both for your time today, your sharing of your insights and experiences from inside your respective companies. Really appreciate that. So thank you both. We're just going to take a short video now. Lovely. So moving on to our next section, we now have a fireside chat on the topic of succeeding with federated platform business models. I'd like to introduce Jens Volge, who is the Product Management Head at Blue Marble Comvidia, and Seshandri Manivanan, who is Vice President at Tata Play. Over to you guys.
Okay, thanks, John, for the introduction. I think we just wanted to add a different flavor of the whole conversation and shift it a little bit to the question of how you use and utilize the platform business and partner ecosystem in a consumer space. And just we'll have Seshandri from Tata Play talk about how they brought this to life, which is sort of the play with partners in the digital platform business, where CSPs use partners in order to create more customers and more loyal customers, but offer them a broader selection of services, products, and content, and providing value to their partners by providing them additional their whole large customer base as potential customers for their services. And at the center part of that is a digital platform that enables, on the one side, a consistent experience for the consumers or customers for their content and services through a very flexible catalog that's very easy to integrate all these different flavors of services that are provided, and also enables the partners to be onboarded very seamlessly and automated, so that there is a reduced cost for them to acquire new customers. And in that circle of providing value and enabling more content, that's where sort of Tata Play plays today in a very specific and a very interesting market. And Seshandri will now sort of talk us a little bit through the framework of what they are doing, and then some of the things that they have around partner onboarding and creating new content and injecting new content into their platform. So with that, I hand over to Seshandri to talk us a little bit about what Tata Play is doing and how that is enabled by a partner system.
Yeah, thanks. And it's our pleasure to be part of this esteemed forum. So let me quickly give you a brief about what is Tata Play, because we have got a lot of participants who are outside India. So essentially, Tata Play is in content aggregation business since 2006. So we launched our operations in 2006, and we have been successfully running for last close to 18 years. So we have been formally called as Tata Sky, where we got rechristened to Tata Play around 2 months back. So if you look at the genesis of our company, it's actually a joint venture between two big conglomerates, where we have Tata Sons at one side, which is $100 billion plus enterprise, and on the other side, we have got 21st Century Fox, which has been acquired by Walt Disney recently. So essentially, we are a marriage between at one side Tata Sons and on the other side Walt Disney Company. So what we are essentially doing is, we are the #1 DTS service provider in India. So it took us close to 5 years to become #1, and we are continuing that leadership for last 13 years odd. Also we started diversifying, where we launched our pure fiber-based broadband service, again a B2C brand, where we call it as Tata Play Fiber. That operations has been launched in 2016, and we have also started aggregating the OTT content since 2018, because we see that there is a kind of a big shift happening in terms of customer viewership, where it is going from traditional cable to OTT space. So we are definitely, since our core forte is like content aggregation, so we are also into the OTT aggregation space. And just to kind of give you a snapshot, we are the only operator present in India, where we aggregate all 12 labs, top 10 labs, including the likes of Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hotstar, ZEE5, So you name it, okay, the major apps, okay, where more than 99% of content gets streamed within India, that is getting aggregated, okay, in our platform. And we have got one of the highest customer satisfaction index, okay, in media. So that actually proves that, okay, we are a more customer focused organization. Coming to the backend stuff, okay, we have got around 300K plus strong dealer network present in India, okay, spread across, okay, every nook and corner, okay, including the likes of Himalayas to the southmost point, okay, which is Kanyakumari in India. And we have got around 40,000 professionally trained installers who kind of visits customer place, okay, within 2 hours of he raising a complaint or he buys a new connection. So that is the kind of SLA that we give it to our customers. And we have got a kind of industry lowest calls per subscriber, which is like less than 0.1%. Hundreds. So there are a lot of reasons, okay, why, okay, our customers call, okay, lesser to us, because our products, we invest a lot in terms of technology. So our products are more robust, okay, where he no need to call our call center or reach out to us for any support. Coming to the kind of the payment relationship, 80% of our payments comes directly from our customers, okay, via digital medium. Okay, this is like a very high benchmark, okay, across. You take it like any telcos or any B2C brand which operates. When there is a lockdown, it goes as high as 95%, okay, where those payments directly come to us. So this kind of actually protected us even during this tough COVID times, where, okay, we didn't lose a customer base, okay, as some of the other brands, okay, lost. And we are a small company with around 1,600 plus employees. And we offer, okay, more than 600 plus TV channels, okay, present only in India. If you look at our satellite capacity as of now, okay, we are having like 24 transponders, okay, via which we transmit more than the 600 plus TV channels. But we are in process of literally doubling this capacity, okay, shortly. So that is a kind of a quick brief about, okay, what we are, okay. This is just a context for people who are outside India. If you look at our business model as such, currently, okay, the cable in India, okay, is much cheaper than OTT. So if there is like a great phenomena which is happening outside, specifically in Western economies, meaning cable is much higher, like around $80 to $90, okay, per connection, while OTT comes as less as like $8 to $10. But it is a kind of a reverse in India, where cable is like $4 business, okay, while still the OTT is like $7 to $8. So we don't see a kind of a big a cost factor coming into picture here. While most of our customers kind of shift for convenience, but cost is never a factor for people to move towards OTT. Having said that, okay, we are definitely, okay, riding the wave of, okay, aggregating the OTT. And if you look at, okay, we are a highly regulated body, okay, where we have been under the regulations of TRAI, which is the same body, okay, which regulates the telecom within India. So almost all the rules, okay, which we can't have a content differentiation. Okay, if you look at kind of a Europe economy or Europe market, suppose if you take the examples of Champions League, so that comes in specific network. So in India, you can't have any such kind of differentiation. So whatever content, okay, which is available across other operators, okay, is available across our side also, on Tata Play platform also. And another one biggest control, okay, which the regulator has introduced is, okay, they decide the price, or in fact the channel partners, okay, like Stars, Sony, Z, okay, those guys decide the price, and that is the same price, okay, which across all the platforms. So that has been a kind of same since February 2019. Okay, so last 3 years while there has been a lot of inflation and price hike, okay, across various other industries, but we have been kind of completely regulated, and there has not been a single dollar increase or rupee increase, okay, price. On top of these things, there is also an offering by government, okay, where they give like a free television channels, okay, via satellite medium across pan India. So government has got their own satellites, and they offer more than 100 plus channels, which are like top content. So it's not just the traditional enterprises, okay, which are our competition. Okay, so we are actually fighting a battle, okay, even with the free service providers, which is offered by government. So the only differentiation, okay, which is possible for us, okay, in this tough regulated markets is a kind of differential QoS, okay, which is quality of service. Then a better customer context, okay, where we are playing, okay, in Indian geography. Okay, moving on, okay, coming to the kind of the OTT space, okay, where we recently started doing migration to those platforms. If you look at the core genesis, customers come for content. Okay, they don't come and tell us that, okay, I need this app or that app. Okay, so if there is a kind of a good series or a good movie, okay, which has come, okay, he doesn't bother, okay, where that movie is coming. It is like you walking into a multiplex where, okay, you don't care, okay, actually which hall the movie is getting screened. Okay, so you go there for content. And there is also a famous saying that content is king. Okay, if you kind of launch a new series or a new movie, definitely customers will kind of prompt to watch that movie. And with so many OTT apps, okay, coming in, it is very difficult, okay, especially in context of Indian geography, where it will be very difficult for brands to kind of establish direct trust with the customer. So typically a customer, okay, can establish trust with at max like 6 to 7 brands. But if you look at OTT, okay, there are already like 45 plus apps, and it's very difficult for him to kind of having a payment relationship with each of these guys. And just to give you another example, okay, let's assume, okay, you go to a supermarket, you buy like 10 different items. Okay, if there are like 10 different billing counters for each item, probably you will never visit that supermarket. So having like a different payment relationship for the similar content, okay, which you are consuming, if you don't give it, okay, then it becomes a challenge in terms of getting the incremental customers or going to the bottom of the pyramid. That's where brands like Tata Play all come into picture, okay, where we kind of aggregate all these content into a single platform, and we kind of give a unified payment relationship for the customers with a kind of SSO where you don't need to remember multiple passwords to stream those content. Also, meaning brands like us can give a unified recommendation engine where you watch, let's assume, a good content in Netflix. Okay, so when a similar content comes in Hotstar, Disney Plus Hotstar, or a kind of a Prime, okay, we can kind of push those recommendations to the other apps, so that meaning your propensity to consume those contents on other apps also increases. So that kind of benefit, okay, is something, okay, which we can bring to the table. And also, like, you have multiple profiles, okay, within each app, okay. So kind of synchronizing all these profiles also, okay, becomes a challenge, and it kinds of irritates customer where, okay, every time when you kind of switch app, okay, you need to kind of change your profile. And also, if you look at Indian geography, okay, it is actually aggregation of multiple cultures, multiple languages. So there are like 12 different languages, okay, within Indian geography, and each language is has quite kind of have a country's population, okay, which is elsewhere. So it's kind of important that, okay, these kind of regional OTT players also have get their equivalent market share, so that good content, okay, which is coming in one particular language, okay, can go to global audience. That is the power of, okay, these kind of OTT platforms. And we are kind of a neutral platform, okay, where we try to avoid any conflict of interest, because we don't generate content. Okay, a kind of similar thing, okay, we can't expect from the likes of Hotstar or Netflix or Prime, because meaning at the back end, okay, these guys fight with each other, okay, to in terms of producing the content. So only like neutral guys like media companies or a kind of telcos only kind of can give this kind of offering. And this ecosystem is extremely diversified. And we are talking about partners in the likes of Netflix, Amazon, okay, who are like the topmost technocrats, okay, who are in this kind of space. So they have their own way of integrating, they have their own way of working, and we kind of need a kind of a federated platform which can actually help brands like us, okay, kind of integrate with these platforms and kind of give a unified experience to the customers. Because we can't go and tell Netflix that, okay, now you change your integration model, okay, to suit our needs. Okay, and every partner, okay, be it like Netflix, Prime, they have got their own way of accounting, their own way of handling customer registration. So that's where these kind of federated platforms, okay, becomes very, very crucial for brands like us. Okay, that's where, okay, we kind of working with Comviva to bring those value to the customers.
Thank you, Shishire, for that overview. I have a quick question to follow up. Can you give us some number of how many partners you onboard in which time frame?
See, roughly we onboard, since we are talking about OTT apps, okay, we onboard like 4 to 6 OTT apps in a year. So currently we have around 13 apps, and we are in this year, okay, we'll onboard like around 4 to 5 apps more, okay, with the likes of the global players like Apple Plus, all those guys are in workings.
Okay. Do you have any plans currently? I understand your business model is very much around content. Is there any plan to extend this into different content types or different services?
Yeah. See, gaming audio is something, okay, which is meaning definitely at back of our mind, okay, but as we speak, okay, there is a huge requirement, okay, for us to kind of get the video market right, because video is our core forte, while the individual apps like Netflix and Prime is all coming up with their own, okay, gaming ecosystem. So that is a kind of a platform, okay, which we would like to wait and watch, but as of now, video is our prime focus area, okay, followed by music, then comes the games.
Okay. Thank you again. I'm not sure how we are in time.
Yeah, we're hi guys. That's excellent. Thank you very much for that. We've just gone over time a little bit. So if you don't mind, we might move on to the panel discussion. They're super interesting. So I'd like to invite, thank you, Jens. I'd like to invite all our panelists to turn on their video now. Our topic for our panel is achieving the necessary agility to capitalize on the beyond connectivity opportunity. We have with us today Dr. Charlene Tyagarav, who is the Chief Executive Officer of TM Research and Development, Divesh Gupta, Vice President of New Technology and Sales Operations at PCCW Global, Ian Watterson, who is Senior Vice President, Head of Asia PAC CSG, Rajat Kandak, who is the Director of Corporate Strategy and Strategic Partnerships and Strategic Planning at DO, Ramesh Palani, who is the Head of Software Sales at JPAC Oracle Corporation. Thank you all for joining us today.
A pleasure.
And staying with us throughout this session. Do we have everybody with you? That's lovely. So just to kick us off, I mean, we've had a very interesting series of conversations today. We've touched on cloud edge, the infrastructure, marketplaces, partnering, and new business models. So in a way, we're going to touch on a lot of these topics again throughout our conversation. So it'd be lovely to build on what we've heard so far today. Just to get us started, in your views, I mean, we're talking about scalability and agility in the context of new growth beyond connectivity. So a very important part of scalability is the notion of building blocks. Tell me, what are your key building blocks to delivering innovative beyond connectivity services with ecosystem partners? And is connectivity as a service or next generation connectivity a key factor of this? So I'm going to put this to our CSPs on the call today. So that's Rajiv, you might kick us off there.
Thank you, Joanne. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the attendees of this conference. If you allow me, Joanne, the audience is primarily in APAC, and I'm from a Middle East operator, so maybe just 10 seconds to introduce. We are the second operator in the United Arab Emirates. We launched about 15 years ago, so last month was our 15th year anniversary. So let's say we are a teenage telco. And in those 15 years, today we are close to $3 billion of revenue, and about $8 billion again in market capitalization. So with that, let me come to the question. My background is in strategy. So let me give you a perspective from a 40,000 feet level of what the key building blocks are. If you go back to academic books, etc., we said there are three primary things. One is your people as a building block, then your processes, and then finally your system. So as we move into this new age of digitalization, etc., the people have to evolve into grow with new skills. That's one. Our processes for a CSP have to become more nimbler, faster, agile, flexible. And on systems, while there are IT systems still required, I think in the conference you've already touched upon this parts of systems need to evolve into ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So overall, if you see that in the new age, there is a transformation needed. I think, Joanne, you introduced in the beginning, the concept of moving from a digital, from a telco operator to digital service provider, etc. So that is really useful. And so these three things, I think, if we do right, that requires, different management leadership style. We need the right resources. So it makes every CSP's journey very unique because circumstances are different, resources are different, leadership styles are different.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Rajiv. Divesh, just you might add to that for the same question to you, Divesh.
Yes, Joanna. Thank you very much for having me here. Just a bit of a background for people who don't know very well what PCCW Global is. So we are an international operating arm of Hong Kong Telecom, and we operate a global network of layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3 services. Our global AS 3491 is a tier 1 internet network. It runs in all continents, and we provide an excess of 20 terabit capacity on that network. Getting into more in line with the topic of the day today, where we're talking about key building blocks and beyond connectivity, I'd also like to mention our Console Connect technology brand. And it is very relevant in this context. So I just wanted to dwell a little bit more on that, and then I can jump onto the question. So around 5 years back, PCCW Global acquired Console Connect. And as our CEO likes to say, actually, Console Connect, the technology company, acquired PCCW Global. It's the other way around, because we actually are now transforming and becoming a technology-led company with this. And Console Connect actually provides us with that fabric. It is the platform which orchestrates all of our wide area connectivity, be it layer 2 or layer 3. Into data centers, so we could provide automated connectivity between two data centers anywhere on our network, or data center to cloud, or cloud to cloud. And so with that background in place, when we touch upon key building blocks for beyond connectivity, from my mind, the most critical one, the first and foremost, is the ability to automate international networks that can be provided on demand through either a web portal or through APIs to other ecosystem partners. And when I say automate these services, I mean the entire life cycle. What do we mean by that? So for example, you need to have order capacity or feasibility checks. Those have to be automated. Then you have to automate your ordering process. You have to automate the provisioning of those services that are being ordered through a portal or through APIs. And lastly, but most importantly, you also need to be able to bill and settle in an automated fashion. So the complete life cycle orchestration. And also, I think we should touch upon ticketing at that point, double ticketing. So all of that has to be automated in a sense that, it could become operational like a network as a service. So in the confines where cloud operators are providing, or hyperscalers are providing extreme flexibility to enterprise customers, that they can control their storage and compute in the same level. Now you have an offering where network as a service can be provided, and enterprise customers can control their WAN infrastructure using this. So those would be the basic building blocks. And one more important factor about this is, so if you have an automation within the confines of a service provider or a network, you then open it up using open APIs and open business models so that these can be consumed in an ecosystem of ICT service providers. And who are these ICT service providers? These could be other hyperscalers or cloud providers. Can be internet exchanges. It can be various SaaS providers or security providers. They can integrate with the network as a service to provide a complete end-to-end service to the enterprises. So that's where we are headed, into a digital telecom business where we become just a partner in the chain of the entire service. The customers could directly buy from us, in this case, from our Console Connect brand, or they could buy from a partner who then leverages our network in the backend to provide an end-to-end service.
Wonderful. So partnering at scale using standardized open APIs. And TM just announced overnight it's a 500,000 downloads of the forum open APIs, which I had the pleasure of leading to get this whole initiative off the ground. So delighted with that news. And it sounds like it's aligning very neatly with your strategy there, Devesh. Thank you for that. So I'd like to go now to Charlene and ask yourself the same questions regarding the core building blocks as you see it from T&M perspective. Charlene?
Hey, thank you, Joanne. And thank you, TM Forum, for inviting me to this panel. It's indeed an honor to be here. A quick answer, absolutely. And I think you spoke about, is connectivity is going to be the next generation connectivity as a factor. The answer is absolutely. Connectivity will be the most important factor to propel digital adoption. And any services beyond connectivity can only exist when you have access to connectivity. And this sometimes, confounds us, truly. But before I go further, allow me to give a quick intro to TM R&D and our business. And this is purely to give you context to the approach and perspective that I'll share and approaches that I have taken, when giving my views to this panel. So we are an R&D company wholly owned by a telco, which is Telekom Malaysia. And so as an organization, we are not an operator, but we build smarter digital solutions for TM, which is a telco. And we also sell these solutions to the external market. And also to give context to where we have come so far. So we have commercialized 18 products and we are drawing a revenue growth of 24% CAGR. And 3 of our products have been exported to the ASEAN market. Also to give context, out of these 18 products, 7 we have built and deployed within the TM operations, 7 mission critical systems managing the TM operations today. And this is from workforce management to fleet operations to prediction algorithms to manage fault predictions for the network, 30 days in advance and so on. So back to your question, Joanne, long-winded one. I foresee connectivity playing a major role in obviously enabling beyond connectivity services, but how connectivity is consumed and delivered will be very different. So once we solve the topic of connectivity, now my 2 cents on the building blocks to bring ecosystem partners together, and I have 3 blocks, and they are technology, business models, and mindset. And I think that the whole forum and the whole premise of this discussion is, predicated on these 3. Technology stack is the easiest to align and fix, and I think we all know this. Business models and mindsets, this is where a major mindset shift is required. Now, to create new business models that is win-win for all ecosystem partners, a collaborative mindset is required, and it can no longer be winner takes all. And Joanne, you said this spot on, exact same words in your opening this afternoon. So, but this is easier said than done. So back to you, Joanne.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate the reference. And very, very interesting. I mean, the reference to technology and mindset. Mindset is a particularly difficult one, as we all know, but critical to actually making the change right across your organization and getting it to stick, getting it to stay. Otherwise, we know people can reverse the course very, very quickly. So I'm going to come to Ramesh and Ian next. And, we're talking about building agility beyond connectivity into the businesses. And I'm keen to get your perspective on what you see as being required to achieve the necessary organizational wide and process agility to deliver connectivity services. Right. So I'll come to Ramesh.
Thanks, Daniel Joel. It's a pleasure to be here. So let me take a slight step back in terms of what has happened in the whole APAC market. If you look over the last many years, it has been a very conventional consumer-oriented prepaid market, and digitization has been most of the time, how do we get digital style services to the people in terms of how do you do, on-demand, immediate consumption, how do you, replicate where there are applications like Grab and Lazada and all that services, which telcos were doing on the consumer side, right? And as you saw today, complexity in terms of going beyond connectivity is today people were talking about, the panelists were talking earlier about, AR or cloud connectivity. That's one where you give a cloud infrastructure. And the other model people talked about, IoT, and then there was also, media. So it's kind of different things to different people and different enterprises and different CSPs. So the complexity is actually increasing multifold, right? In terms of the number of products which has to be rolled out to the market, in terms of the business model being B2B2X, which you referenced to on, and in terms of the network itself is becoming very, very complex in terms of, programmable networks, the core network is changing, RAN is changing, everything is changing. So we believe fundamentally 2 things has to happen. One, whatever needs to be automated has to be automated, right? Whatever can be automated has to be automated. So Devesh touched upon automation and orchestration. I would say we should go also extend that in terms of how an enterprise or consumer consumes a service. That interaction has to be automated. How the services have to be provisioned, that has to be automated. How there is a uniform layer of inventory and that has to be automated. And how do you assure that services in terms of assurance? That has to be automated. Everything that has to be automated, right? Mm-hmm. The other element is how do you actually can monetize at kind of cloud scale, right? And why I would say cloud scale is even monetization is different things for different people. How do you price or charge an enterprise is different from how do you price and charge a cloud service, and how do you price and charge? These are very, very different aspects. And you showed initially that different ecosystem models. So that whole monetization aspects in terms of ability to consume different business models, consume different services, bring with eco places, these all has to happen, right, in terms of overall elements. So this is what I would say from my perspective. Joanne, back to you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to ask the same question to Ian. Ian, your thoughts on the ability to arrive at process agility for delivery of beyond connectivity.
Great, thanks, Joanne. I think a really hopeful way for the audience to talk about this is probably to take some case studies and some real use cases and drive those. And I have to admit, all the panelists have given great perspectives that I agree with about 90% of what's been said. So first of all, if we talk about organizational and CSG, we're part of the TM Forum Beyond Connectivity Committee. We're a very, as you mentioned at the start, very active member of that, and my COO is on that committee. And really, when you think about the organizational agility that you need, let's talk a little bit about B2B, because as has been mentioned, most of the B2C markets are fairly saturated now in APAC. And so if we look at B2B and we look at some of the more advanced markets, like here in Australia, for example, where we work with Telstra extensively on their B2B and B2B2X enterprise marketplace, a traditional approach to that would be to have one big team focused on that market, looking at B2B. And in fact, in some markets, whereas a less developed enterprise market, you might have one team looking at B2C and B2B and not even have a separate stack team. Well, if you assume that you're moving into the B2B enterprise marketplace, and that's where your revenue growth is going to come from, which I think most people agree is where most of the growth is going to come from, then you're probably going to set up your focused sales team, your focused marketing. You're going to set up some kind of vertical approach to that. We've done a number of studies work with our customers, and I think everybody on the forum is our customer across Asia Pacific pretty much. And in some of the more advanced markets, what we're seeing is if you can stratify your approach to that B2B enterprise market, you'll be organizationally much more agile and be able to approach it. So for example, small managed businesses, 1 and 2 people up to say 20, you can offer a fairly standard offering into that market. And as you've heard, a lot of that can be automated. It's very straightforward. You're probably selling Microsoft 365, maybe some cloud security, maybe a bit of cloud services, and that's really good. The next layer up, which is your kind of medium-sized businesses, you're probably talking of businesses up to about 50 or 60 people here, maybe even 100. They're kind of burgeoning on wanting some of those smaller offerings, but also wanting some of the more complex offerings. They might want some consultancy around backup capability and resiliency around their offerings that you're giving to them, and take some software platforms as well, some additional software platforms. And then you've got the high end of town. You've got the big guys. You've got the tier ones. Everybody knows them. They're the big banks. They're the big manufacturing businesses. They're the big logistics companies and shipping in Singapore, for example. And really what we've seen is to provide that organizational agility to get those longer term, large contracts. And since we've been a partner of Telstra, they've been able to sign over a dozen contracts of over $100 million a year in annual revenue with us. Then you're really seeing those dedicated account managers, those dedicated contract people, those dedicated marketing teams needed for that kind of agility, because those are going to be very custom and very focused types of pursuits. So that's the organizational. If we quickly flip to what that leads to, okay, how do you get your process agility, which is what you're asking about. As I mentioned, we're a very big participant in TM Forum. We actually won the Catalyst last year with our marketplace with Axiata Digital Labs, working jointly with them to do that and to bring that to market. And what you're seeing there is exactly what you were saying, Joanne. So that ODA adoption, the open digital architecture adoption, those open API principles, you really need that modular architecture. What we at CSG have brought to market at Mobile World Congress was CSG Encompass. And that really is based on a TM Forum open catalog at the center of all that enterprise offering that you need. And that's critical because you need that flow through from catalog into billing to reduce those elements of error, to increase that automation, to really enable that complex bundling and rebundling and fast time to market. and then reducing those errors and those operational costs. So you get that true flow through right down to the network edge and provisioning. And an area that we're doing research on now, actually with TM Forum, we call contract to accounting. And some of the panelists were talking about that area where you're talking about when you sign an enterprise agreement, it might be fairly complex. How can you be sure that flows the whole way through billing and into your accounting to enable your revenue recognition? And how do you make that all automated? And how do you get those errors down to as close as zero as possible? Because as we all know, a bill is much more than a request to pay. It's a statement of all the errors in the workflows, either northbound or southbound, that an organization has. So yeah, I'll stop there. Joanna could go on for a long time. It's a very interesting area.
It's a very interesting topic, and it's a great point you raised with regards to what we're talking about is reducing the friction of doing business and automating that as much as possible right across the life cycle, but also then assuring that ensuring there isn't revenue leakage. The potential for revenue leakage and fraud exponentially grow in the context of open ecosystems. So having the systems in place is critically important. So thank you very much for that insight. I'm going to go back to Charlene now. I want to talk about the accelerating the adoption of agile methodologies and automation. Can you tell us how you've approached that at TM, Charlene, please?
Well, these are two very important topics, Joanne, and I think we need to talk about them separately if we have time. One is agile and the other is automation. But quick and dirty answer is, I'm thinking agile and automation are definitely methods to achieve certain purposes, to solve specific problems, but it's not a silver bullet, to solve all problems to mankind, which kind of, I see some organizations assuming just adopting agile, you're going to solve everything in the organization. But interestingly, at TM R&D, we adopted both, and with vigor, because we had a couple of issues we needed to fix, and this was way back in 2016. And the two major ones, and I'll just walk you through them. One was how to build higher quality, more reliable software, faster, better, and cheaper, the buzzwords. And then, of course, how to maintain this platform, also faster, cheaper, better, and with early warning alerts if possible, so we know what's going to happen before it even happens. And number two was how to continuously innovate to stay ahead of the curve, and this was very important to us. And results of our efforts have been phenomenal. Within 3 years, and as I shared before, we managed to commercialize 18 products, brought 3 to export, and deployed 7 mission critical systems for a telco. So if I could leave with one thought on TM R&D's journey, or our journey in adopting agile and automation, and what worked for us, is that you really have to work at it. And it has to have sponsorship right from the top. It cannot just be a buzzword and then you forget about it. It's something you have to work on day in, day out, because there is no one static agile model that will work for everyone. Whatever you get from the official manifesto or playbook is just the base, it's the base code. And then, and even if you're from the same industry, you can't copy, from the other. Mm-hmm. So we built our own playbook way back in 2017 when we knew we needed to fix a certain problem. And we had in mind a vision of what we wanted to achieve year 1, year 2, and then end game, So we were very clear with what we wanted. And we kept refining and tweaking the playbook, the methodology, based on the situation at the time and the problem we needed to fix. Human capital is not all the same everywhere. Sometimes you have pockets of people who have greater experience or competency in a certain area, in certain domain, and sometimes you don't, and you need to plug and play. So we tweaked what we had and we build upon it. So we have a playbook now that is, I would say, very situational, and it has worked for us so far. So, and that's my philosophy, Joanne.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that. And a great point that you really need to take these academic agile methodologies and apply them for your given instance, and not just assume them. They're really a guidance. That's very true. I'm going to ask Rajiv, do you have any comments that you'd like to add to this?
To add here, it is a journey. I think I am paraphrasing what Dr. Charlene said. It is a journey. You have to go through it. It's great to hear buzzwords, but when you actually get to working, that's when you find the obstacles, you trip over, stand up again, and move on. So even in our experience in agile technologies, agile way of working, we are going through that learning curve, and it will do.
Yeah. So, and you've, like you said, your role is strategy, right? So, I mean, the application, have you had any challenges in the application of the theory of agile into the practical side of things? Did you have any particular challenges there?
Yeah, the challenges is, organizational priority. You set up agile squads. Then, over time, you find that, something else has become a priority. So, so agile says, to be, quicker, faster, MVP type. But then, at least in a recent agile squad, it delayed. Something else became a priority, so the discussion delayed. So, practically you run into several issues.
Yeah.
Running agile.
So that's a fair point. That comes back to what Charlene was saying as well, that it has to stay a priority right throughout the life cycle to keep it there and stay the course on it. Okay, very good.
Absolutely. Sponsorship from the number one is key, so it stays up there.
Exactly, so it doesn't fall off that priority list. Excellent. Very good. I'm going to come to Devesh and Ian now. How do you create agile, flexible OSS, BSS to accommodate a wide variety of business models delivered through multiple partners? We're talking about, it's come up multiple times throughout the day here and there with regards to the need for new business models, but never more so when you step back from the whole process and go, hey guys, we're not making enough. The market is growing and we're taking a smaller chunk of that market. We have to do something different, fundamentally different from a business model perspective. Devesh, can you share your insights on this for me?
Yeah, I'd like to reflect more, and I think Ian and also Joanna, you mentioned in your introduction earlier on about ODA, Open Digital Architecture under TM Forum, and the catalog-based approach, and the whole business model moving from a closed or a single party driven to a more open standard, which can be flexible enough for the ecosystem play, where you have different partners coming in and they're kind of adding value to the whole chain, so to say, which can be then consumed by the enterprises, right? So in that context, I'd like to touch upon two key things. One's open APIs, and the second is distributed ledger technology, blockchain. So quickly come upon that. The first one, the open APIs, PCCW Global has been a member of both TM Forum and MEF, which are both STOs, and they provide standards for open APIs, right? We've looked at, I'm actually chairing the test and certification committee in MEF, and what we found is there is an increased emphasis within the service provider and cloud operators and business community to standardize these APIs, which enable us to transact high volume buy and sell transactions between carrier partners. So that becomes very imperative in terms of when you're opening up your OSS and BSS to business models through multiple partners. Just to give you a few examples there, TM Forum has a 648 API for code. There is an equivalent API MEF 80 in the MEF world. Then there is a TM Forum 622, which does order management, and there is an equivalent API in MEF 57.2. These are APIs which are basically automating the quote and order process, which is being consumed by a lot of service providers there. So MEF has taken the envelopes from TM Forum and added service payloads to it. For example, Carrier Ethernet. It's a very highly deployable service, which is goes across multiple service provider domains. And with these standard-based APIs, you could open that up into an ecosystem where service providers can cooperate and buy and sell. So give you an example. For example, if you have a service provisioning within your own footprint, but then quite recently, like Console Connect connected with two other partners. One is DC Connect, which provides us interconnections into data centers into China. So we've integrated using APIs in the backend. So it becomes very simple for a customer to come into a portal and order services. They might not even realize that those services or data centers do not reside on our network, maybe a partner network, as a result of an API integration in the backend. So that gives you more value add in terms of, enterprise customers can get services hooked up directly from a portal. So that is an example on how we could use open APIs to expand just the boundaries or the footprint of our network. The second is more touching upon the aspect of using digital ledgers in order to do settlements, billing and settlements. So, these APIs, they obviously increase the amount of load or transaction volumes when carrier providers are buying and selling services. If you compare it with manual processes where you have fixed order, fixed term, fixed bandwidth for a long term of time, right? Here you have shorter contracts. Maybe it's for a day, for a week, for a month. And customers might want to ramp up, ramp down the bandwidth that they're buying or any kind of SaaS application they're buying through a community portal, right? So how do you settle in the backend? There are three key things that we are working under the framework of C-band. PCCW Global has been instrumental in doing some of the trials. One of them is called data on demand. Just very quickly to touch upon what's included in that. Number one is tokenization of network assets. When I say network assets, it could be network ports or it could be connections, which are like point A to point B bandwidth connections. So these are tokenized and put on a network. Once you have network tokenized assets, you could then build smart contracts around these. What it means is you would have a transaction where you have a start time and a stop time of consumption of a network resource, a source and destination, and how much bandwidth was consumed. And once you have those smart contracts, you could use those transactions, which are on a digital ledger, as a basis for settling between carrier partners. So that becomes much more scalable than everyone having their own BSS, OSS, and then having to transact and then reconcile these transactions, which are going to be thousands in a matter of months. So those are the two key things which I would say that kind of help us deliver these services across multiple partners.
Interesting, very interesting, Devesh. Thank you for that. Certainly a new concept towards settlement into the future. And Ian, I'm keen to get your thoughts as well on the flexible OSS BSS to accommodate a wide variety of business models with partners.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think Devesh and I could have a fantastic conversation. I wish we had a glass of wine here, actually. I'd love to discuss in detail. Yeah, and so I want to come back to, first of all, what you were saying, Joanne, about TM Forum and what Devesh was backing up as well. So first of all, obviously, the ODA and open APIs from the TM Forum are key. As Devesh was pointing out, the MEF, the MEF standards as well are fairly closely defined. They're in much more detail than the TM Forum standards, and actually talking about how to get these partnerships at scale and these open APIs to work at massive volumes. We were having some volumetric trials actually just on Monday, and I was talking to one of our regional CTOs, and he was telling me how they're even going to the level of, the open APIs defined by the TM Forum, extract a lot of data. That's quite a high payload to some of those, and we were looking at ways to actually streamline those and just extract certain amounts of data, given the high billions of transactions that we're trying to get to in order to facilitate that automation. So that's the level of R&D, that's the level of research that we're going to in terms of these standards now. And I think it's so exciting because 3-4 years ago, people weren't really discussing open APIs. Now it's getting to the point where it really is becoming the de facto standard, and it will be critical to grow that enterprise revenue, because I think, as everybody knows, there's no single 5G killer app. Everyone's going to have to get into enterprise business, and that demands at scale automation. Now, so how do you, coming to the settlement with partners? I think as most people know, we have more interconnect settlement installations around the world than anybody else. It's been a long-standing area of specialism for us, and it's interesting. We lent very heavily into blockchain early on, probably about a year ago, and we did a couple of trials. What's interesting is when you introduce automated AI-driven robotic settlement between interconnect partners, there's a winner and a loser in terms of both cash flow and contract winning. And we've seen some reluctance from some operators to fully lean into that, because there are losers. If you very fastly settle and you are a net ower to another provider, there's an issue there that we need to discuss as an industry, and how we bring that in as a standard. But we've absolutely operated a couple of those trials already, with that automated, I think it's described as a digital ledger, whatever you want to call it, blockchain, basically automated settlement without any human interaction, and with dispute kick out and then resolution with network records. It is possible. So if you then take that area and you say, okay, I'm going to sign up 10,000 partners to enable me to bundle offerings and sell into the enterprise marketplace, I'll apply that technology there as well. And that's part of that contract to accounting initiative that I was talking about, where we're looking at that automated settlement with partners. We're seeing some laws come in now into some of the more advanced legislative economies, where you have to settle with smaller vendors in a certain time frame, and you have to settle disputes with them. You can't, as a large telco, kind of hold out on your smaller vendors. So we're looking at ways to automate that assurance as well, to make sure you're in compliance with a lot of that legislation. We believe that legislation will expand from some of the more advanced economies into the less ones, just as GDPR has, for example, into a lot of different economies.
Fabulous. Thank you for that. Really, really super insights. So we're at the top of the hour. In fact, we're past the hour. So I just give everybody very briefly, a final thought you'd like to leave people with regarding our topic conversation here, and critically with regards to next generation connectivity and its evolving and the future vision that you see. So I'll start with Dr. Charlene, please.
Okay, good question. I love this one. So I believe the next generation connectivity is going to be faster, simpler, and all wireless at the last mile. I foresee SD and NFV will play a crucial role to make deployment cheaper for operators, faster to deploy, as well as faster to restore and maintain. Self-healing networks will become a reality. And 5G and beyond 5G, as my colleague Dr. Sufyan would say, will allow smarter connections, millions of IoT devices without signal interference to happen. Smart in terms of power consumption and so on and so on. But I will leave you with one key takeaway, if you will, and this is my view. I think in a nutshell, the CIO will be the epicenter of every network and business decision moving forward. The CIO will be, in fact, rule the world. Over to you, Joanne.
Thank you for that, Charlene. Devesh, can I come to yourself? Final thought, so very briefly.
Yeah, very briefly. So what I would like to say is, the telecom space is changing from what a single service provider can offer to an ecosystem of cloud, connectivity, applications, security, and internet service providers can offer as a tightly knit service. So the tightly knit part is very crucial, because that helps provide the enterprise customers with the seamless experience when they're consuming the service. And what it also means is we need to be working on an API-led standard-based approach, which is open to ecosystem partners who can contribute to this food chain. And lastly, we at Console Connect are building one such ecosystem, and we would be glad to work with other ecosystem partners out there. So please come meet us as we move along in this digital transformation journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Devesh. And Rajiv?
From my perspective, as individuals, as societies, as nations, we need connectivity. And I think Dr. Charlene and then previously Sunil from AT&T, connectivity will matter. I think for CSPs, we just have to make sure that we give fast, reliable, secure connectivity. I think that's where the bulk of the money is for us, even in the near term. So that cannot be ignored at all. And of course, we have to make these steps into beyond connectivity services and grow revenues, more contribution, get customer relevance, stickiness, but no ignoring connectivity.
The basics, keep your basic business operating very effectively and keep all those basic rules working. Absolutely, thank you for that. And Ramesh?
Yeah, it was great points by everyone. So I would like to just add an element in which we need to this mindset of try fast, fail fast, and then build over this co-creation kind of this. One of Sunil, I think, touched upon it earlier, where there needs to be a lot of co-creation along with different partners and different applications, and that is a key to probably understanding how to make revenue out of this beyond connectivity.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'll give the final word to Ian. Ian?
Thanks very much, Joanne. And actually, I want to start by building on what Rajiv said. I thought it was brilliant. I also fundamentally believe the one element in society, and also what Dr. Charlene said, that will really drive everything in transformation of how we live, how we interact, and the GDP per capita, like the growth of our economies and general well-being, is connectivity. There's no doubt about that. That absolutely is the fundamental basis. But why do we need beyond connectivity? We need it because there's an unwillingness to pay for 5, 6, 7G versus the amount of investment that we've got to put in. So absolutely, it needs to be the fundamental building block and foundation of everything we do. We then have to build beyond that, and we have a unique opportunity in the industry to do everything from connected cars to healthcare, to industries like farming, to improve their well-being and massively increase their productivity. And a big part of that is getting on board with those beyond connectivity offers and being able to offer those into that B2B and B2X space. And everything we've talked about on the ODA and the open APIs and everything is what enables that and allows us to plug and play and automate all those features and basically provide that to society, which is our role.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all our panelists and all our speakers on today's session, and thank all of our participants who've joined the session, and hope that you've gained some insights here that are brand new for you, that will help you in your work ahead, and basically look forward to seeing you at other sessions in the future. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.